There is something special about a real tube amp. The warmth, the sound, the feel of the air moving when you play. But digital amp modelers have gotten so good. So the question is, are tube amps still worth it in 2025, almost 2026? Let's go. You know that feeling when you first strum that chord, the whole room comes alive. That is the magic of tube amps. My first one was a Marshall JCM 900, and then later on a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. Way too much amp for a kid playing dive bars and clubs, but the roar of those amps made me feel unstoppable. Tube amps are alive, they react, they fight back, and you feel them in your chest. And maybe you're like me, you own those amps. They were more than just amps, they were your identity. And maybe you felt the same as me owning them, but they made me feel like I made it, even though I didn't, and only because my heroes played those exact same amps. But everything that made them great also made them hard to live with, and eventually, life got louder than the amps. There comes a point where the dream starts to feel heavy. Maybe you've been there too, chasing something you love, something you've loved since you were a kid, but it stops to be fun, and honestly, it starts to become a financial burden. For me, that moment came around when I was turning 30. My band, Irreverence, had been grinding for years, touring, playing every single venue we could play, sleeping on floors, getting paid in beer, sending demos to every single label from the majors to the indies, and every single one of those labels telling us, no, we're gonna pass. One July night in 2010, we were playing a bar in Seattle called Fuel. I think it's still there. We were actually playing a great show, but there was one moment in the middle of the set where I kind of looked around and I knew right there and then that this music career that I'd been chasing for almost 15 years at that point wasn't gonna happen for me. And the crazy thing was everybody in the band was feeling the same thing. A couple weeks after that show, we went on a hiatus, which turned out to be the breakup. And we've not actually been in the same room together since that show. Now, this was a really difficult part of my life. One of the things that I thought would help me was to sell my tube amps, my Mesa Boogie dual rectifier and my JCM 900. At first, it felt practical because I didn't need those huge tube amps in my apartment at the time, but over time, I started to really miss it. And for almost 2 years after that, I barely played guitar. And for whatever reason, something pulled me out of that funk after 2 years. I opened up my MacBook. I opened up GarageBand for the first time. I took this pedal out of storage, which I'd had since 2006. This is the Sans Amp GT2, the OG amp modeler, and I started recording songs. I definitely had no audience. I had no plan. I just was having fun for the first time. And that was the moment it clicked. Maybe the dream wasn't over, it just needed to look a little different. Recording at home pulled me back in, and it was exactly what I needed after that break that I took from playing live. There was no pressure, just me, my guitar, plugged into an amp modeler. I started with this. This is the Sans Amp GT2. And then I bought the Line 6 Pod X3, which is a fantastic amp modeler. Actually, my latest album, The Dark Horses, which is a record that I worked on for 13 years, 80% of those guitar sounds are from the Line 6 Pod X3. And then from the Pod X3, I moved on to the HD series. And from then, of course, my HX Stomp and now the Strymon Iridium. I have videos about all these amp modelers. I will link them down in the descriptions below. The great thing about amp modelers is that they just got better with every single generation. And of course, for guys like me and probably like you who have small children and young families, it's cool to get up early or stay up late at night, put on some headphones and feel the roar of the amp, but inside headphones. See, what I realized is digital amps didn't kill tube amps for me. It actually saved my relationship with music. With amp modelers, I could chase the idea as soon as it hit. I didn't have to wait for a weekend jam session or an empty house. I could just put on these headphones and just start playing. And somewhere along the way, I realized that I wasn't chasing perfect tone anymore. I was chasing that feeling of being in it again. And that was enough for a while. But then I started to miss tube amps again. The funny thing is, the more time I spent recording quietly on headphones, the more I started to miss tube amps. So much so that I decided to start picking one up. The first tube amp I picked up in my small space is, of course, the Vox AC15. I have multiple videos about this amp. I will link them down in the descriptions below. This has turned out to be my favorite amp. Then I went to my local Long & McQuaid store, which is basically Canada's version of Guitar Center, and I picked up the Marshall Origin 20. This was a great amp for me because my recording tone had changed from a super high gain JCM 900 and Mesa Boogie to a more refined JCM 800 Marshall Plexi sound, and the Marshall Origin did it for me. And don't be fooled by these sizes, the Vox AC15 and the Marshall Origin 20, which is 20 watts. They can fill an entire room. In fact, I played the Marshall Origin for a one-off show a couple years ago, and I played the Roxy, which is in downtown Vancouver, and it was more than enough in terms of sound. And there was one thing missing after playing that Roxy show. That Marshall Origin 20 just didn't have enough gain on tap for me, and so I picked up this EVH 5150 on Marketplace for a really good deal, and man, at this point, I don't need any more amps. These small amps remind me of what I love about guitar and what I loved about guitar when I was growing up. That connection between your guitar, your hands, and the speakers, and the air moving, and a little bit of chaos. So the ultimate question of this video, are tube amps still worth it in 2025, almost 2026? For me, fuck yeah. See, digital amp modelers can never replace how tube amps make you feel in the room when you're playing them. But I have to be realistic. I don't play any shows these days. I'm mainly working on YouTube videos and producing and mixing records at home. And honestly, digital amp modelers just get the job done quicker and more efficiently. And when I do play the one-off gig here and there, man, it is just so much easier to bring a small pedal board with an amp modeler in there. I want to know what you guys do. Do you still have tube amps? Do you play digital, or do you have both like I do? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to see the 3 pedals that I use the most with these tube amps, I made a video about that. I will link it right here. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.